All right, everybody, welcome back to Rim Grazers episode 2. I'm joined by Brandon and Frank this week, and we're going to jump right into some more playoff talk as talks about reopening start to ramp up. And I know the NBA is looking at Florida as one of its main places to play. So with Florida being one of the places that is looking to open around middle of June, it's pretty obvious that the NBA is looking to move there and do some kind of bubble. And we talked about what playoff formats they could go for. And I know Frank was just talking about possibility of an entire league format. So if he wants to go ahead and jump in and explain what he saw on that and explain what it would be.
So I saw that they mentioned they were looking at 4 different situations, one being the normal 8 and 8, 1 through 16. And it looks like Adam Silver's trying to push for the 20 to 22. And I guess they're still kind of deciding, should they let in some of those teams that are kind of on the bubble? And they mentioned something about having all 30 teams be in, which I didn't really look at in depth as far as how that would work. But I guess I kind of just wanted to ask you guys, do you think letting a team like the Warriors or even the bottom teams like Cleveland or Atlanta, teams like them in that technically weren't mathematically eliminated besides the Warriors, I mean, how would that work? Is it just a single play-in game, like an elimination game?
Yeah, I almost think it's, again, we kind of touched on this last week, but it's really hard to completely cut out teams because those teams were still going to make money from the rest of the season, like unless they just do like a revenue split of whatever model they go to, and then just do it that way. Because I don't know how the Cavs can even afford to pay a team. With I don't know. Like obviously the Warriors also have their new arena and stuff. Like they were probably banking on some money, but I think the one way it could kind of work with all of the teams is if like all of the teams that aren't in the playoffs have like their own play-in tournament almost. Or you give all the top seeds like a double elimination kind of thing and the bottom teams only have one loss. Because like we said, it's just not fair that the Warriors can come back and like compete for a championship when they're the last place team in the league and eliminated from the playoffs. So, I mean, I would just from a basketball standpoint, I think the 20 to 22 teams thing is the most fair and the best solution because those teams could have and probably would have made the playoffs. Like there would have been some changes in the standings. They weren't going to stay the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think 20 to 22 teams is like just the right spot because it allows, like you said, the bubble teams that were like about to maybe make a push for the playoffs, they still have their opportunity. But I mean, nothing's ever fair, right? But like fairness wise, it doesn't make sense that the Warriors can, not only have they been bad all season long and then, Curry and Clay have had all this time to recover, but since the pandemic hit, that's an extra couple months for them to become healthy. And just adding them to, how many wins they have? Like 15?
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, yeah, so that it doesn't make sense to me that a 15-win team can make the playoffs. And, I mean, we'd see, but I definitely wouldn't count it against them. I think they would probably be one of the teams that would not make it to like a Western Conference Finals or whatever that would be, but I feel like they would make it pretty far.
Clay.
Yeah, they would definitely knock off some of the lower seeded teams that are in the playoffs.
So Clay Bennett, the owner of the Thunder, he's making the case to open it up to more teams because of, Mackie, what you were saying earlier, the revenue streams for some of the small market teams. And he was saying, like, let's get some of these teams that are concerned about the money and the lack of play. Let's like get them in to the playoffs to have them have that, TV time and whatnot. Yeah.
Not for nothing, but
that's why, especially him
Bennett.
talking about this.
That was what the big sigh was, because he moved that team from a big market to a small market, and now here he is pleading because they're bleeding money, and every year it's something with the Thunder where they're trading players in order to save money. And honestly, dude, I like the Oklahoma City fans, but I really don't know how long that team can last in that market. I don't know if they ever even got a new practice facility. It used to be an old roller rink. So, like, I just don't... his opinion, I don't know. I mean, it's a valid one for sure, because I know there are other teams in that position, but I just... Hearing it come from him, it's like, you kind of did this to yourself.
Yeah.
So, no sympathy for him, at least, but...
And the other thing that doesn't make sense for that, right, is, like, so, again, we can use, like, the Cavs and Warriors as an example. Neither of them are going to make the playoffs if we just finish the whole, like, if the season win is normal. I mean, the Warriors were literally eliminated already. The Cavs were pretty close to being eliminated. Neither of them were going to make it. So, like, they shouldn't get playoff revenue because they don't deserve it. But at the same time, if we give everyone a chance... The Cavs are still only going to play one game. Like, how much is the revenue from one game really going to, like, swing anything for these small market teams? It just doesn't.
This is where I think the NBA needs to be a little bit more creative. If those teams are so concerned about losing money, like you said, they didn't earn the playoff games, so them getting extra games, right, they're probably only going to get, like, one game. But if that's their main concern is losing revenue, I don't know why they don't do a separate bubble for the lower teams, and... I don't know what they would do, how differently it would be. You can't really have them play for lottery balls, but like there's got to be something that you can do that would work somehow with those teams. Because I think it makes sense to exclude them, but I can see their point of like, hey, we also went through this and we're also losing money, so why is it fair that these teams are going to have an opportunity to make it? But again, they're making money that they would have probably have made. Well, at least 80% of them would have made come playoff time. So, and it's only a portion. It's not even the full amount that they would have made from whatever sales, ticket sales, all those kind of things.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one to convince some of the bad teams on. But again, this is why we need a league where, like, winning matters. Because if you're outside the playoffs, it's literally irrelevant to be the 9th seed. It's just the worst spot to be in. Like, being 9 or 10 in your conference, just the worst spot to be. And, like, I wish teams got rewarded for being in it. Like, if we had a play-in normally, those 9 and 10 spots would be, like, coveted because they could then make it into the playoffs and get into a 7-game series. But, yeah, financially it's really hard to comprehend what they can do, but that's Adam Silver's job. So hopefully he comes up with something.
Well... So Frank's bringing up that might be a format they're going for based off of... do you want to read what the voting was?
So they said that...
Well, actually, hold on 1 second. So the voting, for everybody that doesn't know, Adam Silver sent out basically ballots to all the owners for them to vote on what playoff format they would prefer. And then Frank's going to read you what the results were.
So they said half of the league's GMs, they voted to go straight to the playoffs with the current format, the 8-8 in each conference. And the GMs were also surveyed about a playoff plus format, so some sort of play-in tournament where bubble teams can determine the final seeds of the playoffs, or a World Cup stage group idea. So something extra that isn't just the normal 16. And 75% of the GMs voted in favor of some sort of play-in tournament, while the other 25% voted in favor of the group stage. So it doesn't look like the World Cup idea is popular amongst them, but what is concise is that all of them want something extra added on than just the normal 16, which is a good thing, I think. And hopefully that progresses into something.
Right. And that was the vote that was taken, I think, a couple weeks ago. And everybody said not to jump to conclusions. Like, the vote doesn't mean everything yet. And I know Woj tweeted recently that while those were the results of that vote, that the owners, or I don't know if it was owners or GMs, probably a combination of both, actually, but they're all willing to work with Adam Silver and go with whatever he chooses. Like, they'll have his back on it. So it's sounding like this is more going to be a decision for Adam Silver. I I still think he's probably thinking out what is going on with everything and trying to just get organized on how they can even get back to playing and not what the format is yet. Because we're a couple months out, so I think he's more concerned about just getting his players back in the in the gym and practicing and stuff. So it might be a while before we get a decision on that.
It also. Oh no, go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, and good. Sorry, I mean to cut you off. There's probably going to be a bunch of like more outbreaks of COVID too, because everyone's been outside. Like they even showed that video the other day of LeBron riding bikes with like JR and
AD was there.
Who else were they with? Oh, and AD, right? So like JR is not even in the league right now, is he?
Yeah.
He's technically a free agent.
I don't think so.
And like we've seen plenty of videos of JR doing stuff. So like I don't know if this is even like plausible at this point, because it feels like everyone's still going out and not quarantining, and I'm sure there's going to be another ramp up, but hopefully they can get the season started at least.
I think that's what we were asking before, is if they find something to implement and the season starts, like what happens if, like the first weeks of games are underway, like what happens if, especially a star player like LeBron gets the virus and then he has to quarantine and then the whole team has to get tested, any teams that they played. It's like, what do they do if another flare-up happens? I mean, personally for me, I think they at least try to get the season going and get as far as they can. And if something does flare up, I mean, I don't know if you can really push it back again, because then you're looking at, I mean, right now I think the free agency is looking like late October, and like the next season maybe January, December. So I don't know if you can push it back if something else happens again, which is sad, but I don't know what else you do.
I mean, I think that's why they're really pushing for testing. So that way they have the ability to test. I mean, they would love to test just every day, but I think they want to do it as much as they can. They're going to be like taking a ton of temperature checks. So I think that's what Adam Silver's biggest struggle is right now. Not so much deciding what format. I'm pretty sure he could probably choose that like the week before. The only early decision he really has to make in terms of format is obviously how many teams get sent down. So I think that's why that's like the biggest discussion right now. Because everything else is more, again, along the lines of how, like you guys are saying, how are we going to continue this without another flare-up? So if we went to a World Cup format, I put down what would it mean for the NBA if they went long term on this, and I think a lot of the effects would be mostly positive. And one of the things I was talking to Frank about yesterday was how the trade deadline would become much busier, and it's because today in the NBA, a lot of times a trade deadline, the big trades are a superstar in a market where he's, one, either not happy, or two, he's on a team where they're declining and they just feel like this was their last push and their goal is to just get back as much as they can off of the players. So I think that's what they did with Blake Griffin with the Clippers. They really just tried to take back as many picks and young players as they could. But things like that, that's usually what happens at the trade deadline, or it's a competitive team, like the top team in the East or the West, and they're just looking for one of two things. They're looking for guys on contracts that are on a pretty bad team, and how well they're playing, they would be able to contribute a lot to the championship run that they're trying to put together. Or they head to the free agent or the buyout market and pick up players that have been bought out. So to me, I think this would cause more busyness in terms of teams in the middle of the pack actually being willing to like take a chance and want to improve their team, because with the group staging, they know they'd have an opportunity to improve their team and maybe also make a run when it comes to that time for the group stage to start. I was curious what you guys thought about all that.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea, and I agree. I think it would fix a lot of the issues we have currently with the lottery, because like the Warriors right now, like it's the best example possible, right? If they're in this and they have a chance to like make it to the, I don't know, conference finals, even make it to like the top 8 teams, you know, like the Warriors are going to do that. They're not just going to lose on purpose in the group stage. So personally, I feel like it would be like really good for competition. And we say that, but pretty much every time the NBA tries to make good choices for competition, the Knicks still try to tank. So,
yeah, I thought it was a good idea. It was a good thing you pointed out, Matt, because when you open that up to the group stage and 22 teams, I mean, there's only 4 teams in each conference that aren't going to be in the playoffs. So, I think it gives a better gauge as far as some of the teams that are kind of floating around getting into the group or not. Kind of lets them know, you know, what kind of trade should we make? Are we just, like you said, packing it in, or kind of gives them just a better gauge on what they want to do for their future, since there's less teams that are not going to be in that bubble or in that group. Oh.
Yeah, and I think it opens up the trade market more to guys. Like Marcus Smart was probably the biggest, or not Marcus Smart, sorry. Marcus Morris was probably the biggest trade asset at this trade deadline. The Clippers and Lakers both wanted him. I knew there was some talk about maybe Boston wanting to get in on it. But like it seemed like a lot of the teams are the ones at the top. Whereas if all of a sudden there's this group format, right? I feel like those bubble teams might be willing to take a chance on trading for a guy like that, knowing that he could help them possibly either have a deeper bench or whatever it may be. I can't think of a team off the top of my head that would trade for him. Maybe like, I guess the Kings actually have a lot of players already, but you know, there's teams that are on the fringe that would, if they picked him up, he would definitely help them. So it becomes more of a, I think it's just better all around because the Knicks are pretty bad and they're only fielding offers from 2 teams. Whereas now, if you open it up more, they might be able to field offers from 7 to 8 teams, all looking to pick him up. So,
yeah, and I think it becomes a lot harder for like teams that are consistently out of the playoffs to just like lose on purpose when you have a chance to play your way into the playoffs, like the Cavs, Knicks. I don't know, teams like the Hawks, even like, because the Hawks fans right now would just, like, I assume would be super upset if they like just lost every game in the group stage and like didn't try to make it out, because I assume they want to start winning at some point again. I think it would be awesome, but I'm sure that the GMs would not be for it, and I mean the owners would not be for such a big change.
Well, I'm just looking at some of the teams outside of a group stage right now. The Suns are one of them. That's a team that I could definitely see if they had an opportunity to make it in and they can make a big trade. It's like you have the second half of the season to see how it works out. And if it doesn't, you could go back and just trade the guy. But you're still playing for some. There is an opportunity where, like, if you start playing well and that trade actually made your team a lot better, and now you actually made it to the group stage and there's a possibility you can earn a higher seed, I feel like that just makes the whole season more competitive, rather than these teams saying at All-Star break, like, damn, like, we're way down here. I think we should just pack it in and pick up some ping pong balls.
Yeah, that makes post All-Star break like way more important too, or right before
like the
All-Star
Hawks,
break.
I think they were they're 20-47. I mean, they're 7 games back, but they made that trade for Capella. I mean, who knows how that would have worked out, but if they could have won maybe 15 or 20 games and had like an amazing run, I don't think Clint Capella would be that guy that helps them do that. But you know what I'm saying? If they got into that group stage and picked up a higher seed, their season wasn't lost because of that. And they became a team that all of a sudden was interested in making a trade like that. Whereas, you know, usually it's only the top teams.
Yeah, and I think that's another way too of solving the issue with the West just being so much better, right? Because the Suns are the 3rd worst team in the West, but they would be the 9th seed in the East. And like, if you give them a chance to like get past the Spurs and get into the playoffs, like they have something to play for. Like, if we restarted the season right now, just normally, the Suns would have literally nothing to play for right now. they might as well just lose games and try to get further back. I mean, I guess they could come back from a 6-game back, but you know what I'm saying. Like, that's the way a lot of these teams think throughout the season.
It's no longer like a make or break trade. It's more like, we're going to be in the stage. Can we pick up some assets that allow us to actually compete, since we're going to be in now, instead of just, well, we're either going to make this trade for our future or there's just no point. And yeah.
I think it makes GMs better too, because they'll have to make more decisions, and teams that are willing to take chances like that, you'll start hearing those GMs talked about a lot more. I mean, not to say they don't take chances, but I don't know. I just feel like overall it would make it much more interesting.
I agree.
Well, speaking of trades, there was Bradley Beal trade rumors for the Nets. I'm just curious what you guys think about that, if they added Bradley Beal. And I'll just lay out probably the most likely trade, just so we have an idea of what the Nets would look like before and after, and what the Wizards would look like before and after. So automatically, I'm pretty positive Karis LeVert is like the guy that's going to be the centerpiece of a package for the Nets. I don't think the Wizards take anything back without him. And the more I look at it, I think the more likely the second guy is Jarrett Allen. I think the Wizards would probably really push for him. And then it'd probably be 2 first-rounders, but he's also locked into a long contract. So there is a possibility that they might try to pull Dinwiddie too, especially with the unknown of John Wall. But what do you guys think about a trade like that?
I think it really depends what the Wizards are doing, and it's impossible to tell, because like they should have blown it up a while ago probably. But for the Nets, I think like anything they can do to get Bradley Beal, it makes them an instant like threat to the Lakers and Clippers. Because I mean, right now they already kind of are, but I don't know how useful it's going to be having all of these really good but not great guards in the playoffs. Like, we know Dinwiddie steps up in the playoffs, but I guess we don't know that about Bradley Beal, to be fair. But Bradley Beal is just obviously another level. Like, he's one of the best offensive players in the league. And like, how would you have an off night with those?
Yeah, like I think we know what we'd be getting with Beal. Like, you know what he's going to bring. I think it's more of just, like you said, what are the Wizards doing, and like what would the Nets be willing to give up, and is it too much? Like you said, like if it's Karis, Dinwiddie, and Jarrett, you know, if it happens to be all 3 of those, is like, do you want to give up that depth or Beal? It just really is, what do you think's worth it? I mean, I like those young guys. I think they have like really a solid core, and you know, Beal brings a lot to the table. I just don't know if it's worth it giving up a lot of those pieces for him. I mean, it could be, but...
Well, I've been back and forth on this, and probably because I'm a Nets fan. And, like, I think Karis... I'm pretty sure he can be an all-star. I feel like he is. He has bad luck. He keeps getting injured right around times where you're not going to have an opportunity to make the all-star team, but last year in the playoffs, he was clearly our best player by far. And he just, I don't know, every year he improves so much more. But I think the deal breaker for me, like the one that hurts the most, is Jarrett Allen, because he's such a young center. And I get it, DeAndre's good, but I don't know how much longer he can. Like, I feel like for DeAndre, it makes more sense for him to be coming in and playing 20 minutes per game, because you'll get so much more production out of him. And him and Jarrett are both very identical. They both set really hard screens, both great at rolling to the rim. They both protect the rim. Jarrett needs to work on his post defense. His post defense is not as good as DeAndre's. But that's the good thing about having the 2 of them, is Jarrett can just run forever. He's only, 20? I think he's 22 now. So to me, it hurts to lose another center like that. But if we can somehow make a package centered around Dinwiddie and Karis and have them take that with some picks, come playoff time, it's usually only 7 to 8 guys in the rotation anyway. And I feel like with KD, Beal, and Kyrie, that's a lot of power with like not a lot of ball to go around. So they'd probably be staggering minutes already. So, I mean, it'd be one of two ways. And I think if you're going to do this trade, you get rid of your guards because there's already a ton of guards on the team. So why not, if you're going to be staggering the minutes, just get rid of 2 of your guards because you're not going to have playing time for them at that point. Like Beal can be the primary handler when the second unit comes in. So like he could have Joe Harris with him, Taurean Prince. Like I think it would just work out better if they tried to get rid of more guards rather than giving up a center.
Yeah, if they can, that's what I was just going to say. If they can get rid of, like, because, I mean, Bradley Beal is the same age. I mean, virtually the same age. They're 24, 25, and 26. But as those guards, and Bradley Beal's in the middle, right? So it's not even like you're losing out on potential with Karras. Like, he's the same age as Bradley Beal. If you can get rid of those 2 guards and a couple picks and keep Jarrett, that's like an amazing team. Like, that team could be so good, especially since post defense isn't like the most, like, Jarrett Allen is better than DeAndre in everything important right now in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his post defense being the only thing he's worse at is kind of like not
it's
as
silly.
big of a deal as it would have been like 5 years ago.
Yeah, I would agree. If you can give up the guards, I think it's great. I love Jarrett more than DeAndre, so that's the only thing that I would find concerning if they did a deal was just Jarrett. But I don't think it would hurt them that much if they had to give him up though. But because Beal's going to bring a lot. That's a crazy team if that happens though.
Well, I trust Sean Marks, and I think he probably is thinking the same thing. I mean, Dinwiddie, I think he only has like a year left on his contract anyway, or at least I think his player options after next season. So you don't know how long he's going to be around. He's very open to moving to another team. I mean, I'm not saying he wants to. He clearly wants to be part of a championship team, and he's been put in place to do that. But I don't think it would hurt him to move to a team and become a starter. So I just think, again, it makes more sense to lose 2 of those guys. Like you said, they're around the same age, but they both have pretty good production with some draft picks, if Marks can pull that off without giving up Jarrett Allen.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer. If they can keep Jarrett Allen, I'm pretty sure the only people in the world that like DeAndre Jordan more than Jarrett Allen at this point are Katie and Kyrie. So
yeah, well, I mean ESPN too.
Well, yeah,
any kind of mainstream media does not talk about Jarrett Allen, but that's, it's not a household name. And part of the thing last summer was that they signed DeAndre. So, I think people forget though that they signed DeAndre with money that Katie and Kyrie left on the table. They purposely left the money there for him to come and sign that contract with that much money. So he's not taking money from anybody other than Katie and Kyrie. The next thing I had on here was about Boston. And clearly they're moving up and up pretty fast. I mean, were they in the Eastern Conference Finals last year? They weren't, right? That was 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
But again, these guys are all super young. And the point I was just trying to make is like they have a lot of young guys and are developing really fast. I think Jason Tatum's easily, actually, I don't know if I want to say easily because I don't know what's considered a small forward in the league anymore, but I feel like he's a top 5 small forward. And then you got Jaylen Brown, who, what I put here is, do you guys think he's emerging as their second star?
I feel like I have watched the Celtics the most. And like, so basically the thing with Jaylen Brown, right, is that season where we got to the conference finals, him and Jason Tatum were the second and third best players on the court behind LeBron, and arguably better than LeBron at points. And the only reason we didn't do that last year is because of, you know who, chilling on the Nets, signing bad contracts for DeAndre. And I like, when Jaylen signed, I'm not sure how you guys felt about it. I know I talked to Chance about it, and Chance's like, oh, I don't know, that seems like a lot. I was like, dude, he's a beast, okay? His stats look horrible, but when you like watch them in the playoffs, he just does so much for the team. Like literally everything Jason Tatum saves his energy not doing is like instantly Jaylen's job, and they work perfectly together. And I mean, I think he's gonna be this. I don't think he's the second star yet, right? Because just offense. I mean, Kemba's nuts. I mean, I don't understand how he scores so much doing the same thing every game.
I think that was the biggest thing coming into this year is Jaylen going to be worth that money that they put up, and I think he's earned it this year. I think I'm kind of on the same page with you, Brandon, that he's emerging or close to being second. I don't know if I'd put him there yet. I think you can make the case for it. I mean, there's no doubt Tatum's the best player on that team, but I mean, Brown, as far as win probability, win shares, and his percentages are like awesome. Yeah, I just think he does a lot of the nitty gritty things and just a crazy player. So you can make the case for a second, and I could agree. But yeah, I think give him a few more years, or even just another couple years, and I think he'll be number 2.
I think at this point, I don't think Kemba cares about being the best or second best player on a team. He's had enough time with like a team with no success, so I think he's ready to just like whoever's. I don't think he'll care at all whether or not Jaylen Brown moves ahead of him in terms of like this is the guy we need to get the ball to score. Also, I don't think Jaylen Brown's really that type of player anyway. Not to say he can't do it, but I don't think, again, like that's his agenda. I think he's part of a team aspect of like just we need to win games. And this has probably been his biggest leap, I would say, this year from last year in terms of improvement, because I actually don't know what he didn't improve on. But if he does emerge as like the second guy, so the pecking order then would become Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba. And that leaves an odd man out, which is Gordon Hayward. And I don't know, what do you guys think they should do with Gordon Hayward?
I mean, this is hard, right? Because the team's chemistry right now is like pretty much perfect. Because just exactly what you were just explaining. Everyone knows that Tatum's the guy on offense, right? He's going to be the top guy. He's going to take the last shot. But also he would be very fine passing it to Kemba, I'm sure, because Kemba's like the clutchest player in the NBA. Or at least he was in college. He hasn't really had many chances in the NBA. But it's like all of the guys in the Celtics just want to win. And it's like the best feeling watching them play and seeing like Kemba would pass up the last shot. Jaylen would pass up any shot. Just like they all just are making like right plays. When we're playing at our best, everyone's just making the right play. And Gordon actually fits into that a ton. Like he'll have games where he doesn't shoot at all just because he doesn't want to take a bad shot. And then he'll have a game where he shoots like 9 for 9 because he's only taking like wide open jumpers and dunks / layups because, you know, it's Gordon Hayward. And obviously I would love to trade his salary. But I feel like we'd have to give up like every pick we own for that. He almost might be more worth it just to keep on the team till his contract runs out. And we might even be able to re-sign him for a lot cheaper than he currently makes too.
Yeah, I think it would just depend on what you guys like would want for him, or like if it was like a salary dump. I know he's heading into a player option this offseason. But I mean, he's not playing bad at all. And like you said, the synergy between the whole team is, I mean, it's great. The chemistry is good. They're all buying into just wanting to win and unselfish players. So I think keeping him is a good thing. Trading him, it depends on what you get. Could be a good thing also. So, either or.
My biggest concern is I don't think we get anything for him, anything too useful for him in a trade, just because of his salary being so high. Like he's still our highest paid player.
I mean, you might have to give up something, but there are packages I would think that are going to be out there. A team that comes to mind is the Knicks. They're trying to free up money for Giannis. I think this plays out perfectly, actually, that Gordon Hayward's contract will be ending going into that offseason. So, in a salary dump like that, you might be able to pick up Mitchell Robinson, which would help a lot at your center position. But I'm just saying, like, these are... the Knicks are very delusional about these kind of things. That, like, dude, call me crazy, but they do this every summer where they think they're gonna pick somebody up. They traded Porzingis, dude. They traded Porzingis for cap room.
Yeah, dude, that contract was massive.
I really don't think it's over the top to think that you can trade Gordon Hayward for one of their guys on their team, where it's Julius Randle or Mitchell Robinson. So it's not very far-fetched.
If we could trade him for either of those two, I mean, fuck yeah. You guys know I love Mitchell Robinson. I don't know if Julius Randle fits in too well, but if we could get someone like Mitchell Robinson that fits in even better on the team, I would 100% be down for that. But we'd have to finesse someone, and we know the Nets aren't going to get finessed. So
you can finesse.
Hopefully the Knicks let us do
it.
They'll lay down.
Yeah, Knicks haven't changed anything in a while. They get finessed quite a bit.
Yeah, so like that's again, and I think they're really on this Giannis thing. So like I wouldn't put that past them to try something like that. Plus, they don't really even play Mitchell Robinson. Not to stay on the Knicks, but I really don't see how they wouldn't want to. I don't know. We'll see when we get there, I guess. But there's going to be teams out there that might be willing to take him in a salary dump, and you could pick up a player that might be more helpful with the team going forward than Gordon Hayward. I do like what you said about keeping him and then possibly re-sign him to a lower contract, though, because I think if you were paying him like $10 million a year to $15 million a year, I think you're getting way more production out of him than what that amount says. Whereas right now it's like what, 20 to 25, which is a lot.
Insane.
Yeah.
And like the reason I think we could get him back, right, is the Gordon Hayward, Brad Stevens connection. You know, they literally have known each other for like 12 years. Like he's known him for way longer than he's been in the league. And like they basically both got each other to the league. So oh my god, he gets paid $34 million.
Wow, that's way more than I
didn't
thought
know that.
Yeah, so
it's more than I thought it was too.
Well, that's what I'm saying, dude. If he was like 10 to 15 million, I think his production is probably above what he'd be getting paid. But I don't know. Again, that relationship he has and the fact that he wanted to sign there could be beneficial to you when his contract is up, because you will be able to negotiate a lot better. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess that's again one of those things we'll see down the road, but it's interesting.
Yeah, that one definitely is just going to depend on like what we can get. Because if we can get Mitchell Robinson like for Gordon in a first round pick,
trigger.
Like I'm sure Danny Ainge is jumping on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
they
still have like a war room of draft picks too, right? Like
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't think there's like a big push to trade him though, because I think it can work with him there. I just think it would be a little bit easier for us if we had a little more cap room and an actual center.
Well, the thing is, that's the beauty of having him have such a big contract. So I'm assuming he's going to go up again once he picks up his player option. So it's probably going to be closer to 35 to 37.
No,
that
was
is a
his player
huge.
option. That's 34, but yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a huge contract though, because that's like what max guys are making. So you can attach that to pick up any max guy that might be either upset or a team that's realizing. Again, this goes back to what we were just talking about earlier. There's going to be teams that are probably going to be willing to move guys just based on their circumstances. And the idea of a salary dump is usually in picks is usually the way it goes. So, I mean, that puts you in a good position at least with him having that much, like, because you can match the money very easily without including somebody else that you would probably maybe think about not getting rid of. So I'm going to skip over the next one just for a second, because I saw that John Wall said he's ready to prove doubters wrong about his $170 million contract. And he said, when I come back, I'm going to show them I earned it. And this is from The Athletic. Michael Lee reported on this. I'm just curious what you guys think about his return and all that, because I'm on the fence still. I think he'll return okay, but I don't know if he'll be the same explosive guy he was.
I think his new I think it's all on him, right? Because last time we saw him come back, he wasn't like looking too good, like physically. But if he's like actually motivated and is actually trying to come back like better than ever, I'd like totally believe he still has plenty of time to like be that top player on a team. like 2 years ago he was better than Bradley Beal. It's not like this dude was a bum. Like he's been a bum since he's been hurt, but I don't know if that's because of his injuries or because he hasn't been like working as hard as he could to come back. Because we've seen people come back and be the same player.
Yeah, it's been just such a long time since he's played, and returning to that explosive player that he once was, like, we'd all like to see it because he's one of the most exciting players to watch. And I think it also depends on, like you said, the motivation for him, and especially whatever they do with Beal. I mean, what is that team going to look like when he does come back? You know, is it just going to be a team that hasn't really made any strides aside from that playoff run a few years ago? Yeah, I mean, just him getting healthy and the team environment around him, I think, are going to be the biggest factors. But I mean, if he's motivated to do it, I think he can definitely come back and be an effective player like he once was. But I think it'll be hard for sure. And that is a lot of money that they paid him. So I'm a little skeptical he can prove that he's earned that much, but I hope he does.
I think he'll come back as one of the better point guards in the league, but I don't know. The concern I have is that his injury was an injury that happened on top of an injury. So like one injury was causing the other one. They went and fixed it, and even after they fixed it, an infection caused the next injury, which is a torn Achilles. So like torn Achilles is already a big injury. To know that you also had two previous things that were leading up to that is tough. But I mean, if he's really working hard and getting in the gym and making sure he's following routines, I think science now, I think people underestimate how good exercise science is and the ability of these doctors and trainers to get people back to maybe not 100%, but very, very close is much easier than it used to be. So I think, again, it just comes down to his motivation, like you guys are saying, if he wants to be that. It'll also be interesting, too, if the Wizards feel like they want to move him. I think it'll all depend on what their idea is going forward. Are they ready to restart? So are they going to trade Beal and John Wall? Or are they sticking with this? And what team wants to pick him up? And what is that team getting? Is it going to be a motivated John Wall? Like, I can't believe they traded me. Like, I'm going to prove like that I'm still an all-star caliber player. Or is he just going to, just punch the clock every day and pull Darren Williams and just collect a check? Like, it depends.
Yeah, I think if Bradley Beal gets traded, there's literally no way John Wall can stay motivated on that team. Like, I don't know how that's possible without Bradley Beal there. Like, what is he playing for at that point? He's going to be 30 when he comes back. But like you're saying, if they also trade him, I could definitely see him like having a renaissance on another team and just like turning into like a top 5 to 7 point guard again.
I agree with that. Just really depends on that environment.
I wonder what teams would be willing to pick him up and how they would do it. My mind's running wild right now. Like, I'd love to see him on the Bulls for some reason. Just because I think that just, with all the young guys they already have, that's just wild if you're able to add him to that.
I would just feel so bad for Kobe White.
Yeah, that's true. There are teams that keep messing up. Maybe they could finally make it right and do something. Like if Jordan can actually make a good trade and get him to Charlotte somehow. But that's a big risk too, because Jordan's already made so many mistakes. If John Wall is not playing at, a crazy high level, it's like, why did you trade for this guy? Although I don't know what more he could do to fuck up, really.
I mean, they can't really do worse.
You kind of just put him in like another negative environment as far as like the surrounding pieces. So.
Right. So that would be interesting. Bleacher Report, they put out an article, and it's the top. They basically ranked all the duos in the league on each team. So it's 1 through 30. And I sent you guys the link, and they have some pretty controversial ones. But again, this is Bleacher Report, so I'm
not surprised.
It's always controversial when they put something out. But they have some really weird ones that are pretty low. And I'm just curious what you guys think of when you saw this. I know the first thing that went through my mind was that it's crazy to think that Anthony Davis and LeBron James are number 2 to Giannis and Chris Middleton. So I guess we could start there.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of shocking stuff. Like even just starting at the bottom. And like you guys know how much I dislike Zach LaVine, but Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen being 28 is also like kind of surprisingly low. Like Kevin Love and Larry Nance are higher than a lot of these guys. Like Kevin Love and Larry Nance are higher than Cat and D'Angelo Russell.
I didn't even know that one was that high.
What?
Yeah,
What
so
is
that's
like,
what
25.
duo is that?
How does that not last? Oh, Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier is pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I love Devontae Graham. I love Terry too. He just gets paid way too much. But
and they have Steph Curry and Draymond at the bottom. Like, if that team's healthy all year long, that's definitely not a bottom half of the league team. I know Draymond's not. I think people do overrate him at times. But like what he brings defensively and like in terms of just intensity, and then Curry's ability to score is just. There's no way that's a bottom half of the league team, especially not last. There's no way it's the last thing you would pick.
Yeah, like we're saying they could win.
Yeah, I'd pick that duo over a ton of these.
Yeah, I mean that one's kind of different though, because they're just saying like they're hurt, so they're basically just saying there's no one else on the Warriors worth mentioning.
Yeah, at this point,
which is kind of true. I mean, I don't know who their duo would be after.
He's been hurt this season too, right?
Yeah.
So that might be hurting that one there.
What do you think of the Christian Wood and Derrick Rose? At number 21.
I never thought I would watch Christian Wood play that much, and I'm not even sure why that's
Blake's been hurt.
I guess Blake Griffin only played a few games, right? I think he only played like 5 or 6 games this year.
I mean, I don't know anything about the Pistons, so besides.
Yeah, to be honest, I've watched like 2 Pistons games, and they were both disgusting to watch. So.
And I guess because Drummond's not there.
Jonas Valanciunas is John Morant's duo.
Would it not be Jaren?
And I'm not sure why. I gotta read.
Yeah,
this.
Honestly, this article loses all credibility when you pick Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, how is Jaren Jackson not the duo?
Yeah.
Even Brandon Clark is more important to that team than Jonas. Like, how
do you not pick Jaren Jackson there?
Blowing.
I mean, they mentioned him. What'd they say?
They wrote, and the advanced numbers love Jonas Valanciunas more than anyone else on the roster.
What?
I mean, I don't know what the advanced numbers are.
Yeah, what is that?
I can tell you, like, if you just watch a basketball game, it's not.
No, not
I don't think Jonas Valanciunas is his duo partner at all.
They talked about like net rating and like efficiencies and stuff, and that's what I like to look at as far as like as a whole for the NBA season. But I don't know what else they're going into here. Real plus minus wins, winning percentage, cumulative game score. So I guess they're just factoring all of that together. And this is what it's producing. It's interesting.
Well, I was curious what you thought, Frank.
Yeah,
of Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid being lower than Devin Booker and Ricky Rubio.
Not the best, but I don't think we should be that low at all.
Yeah, just so you guys know who are listening, they put Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid at 14 behind the Suns, the Jazz, Danilo Gallinari. What the? Like, I don't know about that. That seems a little extreme.
Can we question some of these duos too? So you just said Gallinari. He's with Chris Paul. Why is it not Shy?
Yeah,
I don't know.
A very weird list.
Yeah, this is a weird list, man. This is like too easy to pick apart.
Yeah, and Devin Booker and Ricky Rubio, I'm pretty sure, dude, DeAndre Ayton's been a beast this year. I know he missed a ton of games due to the suspension, but damn, he's been ridiculous. There's no way Ricky Rubio should be his duo. I already hit on a couple other ones lower than that. The rest seem to make pretty good sense, actually.
I was kind of shocked to see the Heat at 4. Like, I think they're really good. And
you know what? I don't hate on that one as much.
I don't completely disagree.
Because Bam's been crazy.
But do you see who's at 5?
Yeah, I disagree with that though. So again, so everybody that's at home, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George are the fifth duo, according to this list, in terms of the fifth best. And then above them is Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo for Miami.
Can we, Mac, just run through the top 5? Because there's so much I want to talk about.
Should I go 5 to 1 or
or
1
go
to
5 to 1?
Okay. So 5 is Kawhi Leonard and Paul George with the Clippers. 4, as we just said, is Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo with the Miami Heat. 3 is James Harden and Russell Westbrook, Houston Rockets. 2 is LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Los Angeles Lakers. And number 1 is Giannis Antetokounmpo. I almost said Chris Middleton first, but I'm going to do it that way. Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah, feel free
you
to
can make the case for the Bucks
want.
being number 1, I guess. I mean, their net rating is the highest. Yeah,
it's because Giannis
and Middleton's not a scrub, but and considering they.
To be fair, though, Middleton is the worst player out of the rest of the top
100%.
5 duos.
And just them as a team, how they're playing. And I believe they have the best defense in the NBA, but as far as just focusing on these two, it's not terrible at number 1, but I mean, when you look at the collective of the other ones, it's I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be AD and LeBron at number 1. Honestly, for me, it's either LeBron and AD or Paul George and Kawhi. I don't understand how Paul George and Kawhi are so low. There's literally no way that the Clippers shouldn't be in the top 3 above the Rockets, who aren't the Rockets.
Rockets are 3.
The Rockets
you know
are the
what's
6th seed.
I don't know. I really love this Rockets duo. I don't love either of their games, but I think, I don't know, just something about
Oh,
this.
they work together.
Yeah.
For sure. But Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Name one NBA GM that would take these two over Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I would love to see it.
Well, I think part of my brain also just wants to do NBA Jam, just pick the 2 best players on the team. But that's usually how it is. And I understand that they're trying to do it without people who are injured, which I guess, that has to be part of the reasoning, right? Is the injuries for the Clippers? Because I think
that's
Paul
what we were
George has
talking
been out a
about.
lot.
If they had played more games together, they would be higher. So
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would take Kawhi by himself, playing 20 games a season, and playing in the playoffs over that duo on my team. He's the best player in the league. I guess Giannis is now, but Giannis hasn't really done too much in the playoffs to win series. Kawhi literally won a chip last year. Come on.
The other thing they have at 13 for the Suns, which I still don't know why they're higher than the Sixers, but the first thing they say is if DeAndre Ayton is able to stay on the floor, he may replace Ricky Rubio as early as next season. It's
He will. He was going to this year until he got suspended.
Clearly Ayton.
Can I also get my bias out there for my most overrated duo in the league that you guys probably already know who I'm talking about? 'Cause I shit talk them constantly.
Yeah.
Jokic and Jamal Murray are not the 6th best duo. Jamal Murray's barely the 2nd best player on the team.
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know about Jokic, dude. In terms of his game as being a top player in the league, I just don't know. To me, when I watch games of him I just don't. I don't know. I just feel like he doesn't take over like that. I guess he is the leader of the team, but he's not. I just don't see him demand the ball in the post and just go to work. And sometimes he gets. Not to say he always does, but a lot of games I've watched with him, he's just not impressive. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, he's an amazing passer, but being the I don't know, your center who can't move being the best passer on your team is it's cool, but I don't know how viable that is for a team winning a championship. He can't just. They do play through him and it works, but is that going to work when you're playing against Giannis? If they made it to the finals, Giannis is going to demolish that team.
I also have a little bit of bias too, because dude, he just every time I watch him and his complaints about everything.
Oh, it's very annoying.
It's so frustrating. But again, I'm not I don't want to judge him too much because I don't know. I'm still on the fence about him. I feel like they're just gonna be that team that performs very well, like the Hawks, from like 2012 to like 2015. Just a really good team every year, win a ton of games, get a high seed, and then just know they're gonna get bounced in the playoffs because there's gonna be teams with way better talent.
Yeah, Jokic just does a lot of things well. I mean, I personally don't like him that much, but especially having
like even the duo behind them, I think is better.
Oh hell yeah,
Luka and Porzingis. Like I think that's gonna be a crazy duo.
Considering how young they are, yeah.
I hate the Knicks. How did these two get on the same team? I don't understand.
Because of the Knicks.
Like this literally makes them like perennial contenders already, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Like if those two are healthy, they're literally already a contender in my head.
And what's crazy is they traded Tim Hardaway with him too, I think, to make the money work. And like,
yeah, dude, it's like, come on,
damn, he's just been balling since, yeah. So, I don't know.
The Knicks are just gift givers. I don't know, dude.
It's like I don't want to shit on the Knicks, right? I want to be unbiased for this podcast.
It's hard not to.
Is it though?
Trade was a good decision.
Is it really unbiased? Because they really just do keep making decisions. Like, all right, let's be unbiased about this one, so we can all agree that the Nets trade was awful when they got Kevin Garnett.
I don't know. I think it was all right.
Well, again, that's coming from your side of things. But I mean, objectively, I would say it's a pretty bad, easily a one-sided trade.
Terrible investment.
Yeah, it literally set us up for building the team.
I don't sit here and go, man, I mean, I thought it was a great trade the day of until we started playing games and realized we were shit. But, like, it's just, looking back on it, that trade killed the Nets for so many years. And and people said it was a bad trade the day of, too. Some people said it was a good one, but you can't not look at what the Knicks do and tell me that they've made a good trade.
Yeah, the difference is when the Nets made that horrible decision, like, the whole franchise is different now.
Right, true.
No one who used to work there is the same, whereas the Knicks' issue is their owner, so there's nothing they can do to fix the problem. Like,
I feel like that's the Kings' problem too, dude. I mean, they've slowly been making good decisions, but God, if they just, I don't know where. I feel like they just keep picking like middle of the line talent. Like they really just need that one. I mean, De'Aaron Fox maybe will be that guy. I don't know, but I feel like they don't have that like guy that's gonna bring them all the way.
Just a lot of solid pieces.
They had that guy. I feel like DeMarcus could have easily done that. They just never put anything around him that was worth. And they never worked with him to get his like everything under control. Like, I don't know. I feel like he was just a young dude with like a hot head, and they just never figured it out. To me, that's just a bad organization because your player development must have been ass.
Yeah, like you can't even blame DeMarcus for that. Like, how can you be in the MVP conversation on that horrible team for like 5 years and just not be pissed? And like he was right. Now he's been injured for 2 straight years. Like he was totally right. He should have been able to play on a decent team at some point during that stretch.
Yeah, I really wish he was healthy this year. Although it's been good for Dwight Howard too to pick up those minutes. I feel like that's another conversation, I guess. I was gonna say I feel like people really disrespect Dwight Howard. Like I feel like they forget what he did before leaving Orlando.
I feel like that we can make our whole next podcast honestly could be about old guys that are like playing well again. That people are just like it's not just
me. I think he's a Hall of Famer easily, like first ballot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's the most dominant defensive player like since we've been alive.
Right.
Well, since we've been conscious to watch basketball.
And I feel like people forget that because they're like, oh, he had that little stint in Los Angeles, and he had his thing with Kobe, and then it didn't work out with James Harden, Houston. Which, did it though? I mean, they made it to the Western Conference Finals. Not to say Dwight Howard was the reason for it, but you can't say he didn't contribute to that team at all. He wasn't the same player. He's getting older, and he still had a ton of injuries, but
I mean, Dwight is the reason they were convinced to go with PJ Tucker at center now. So he contributed to that team one way or another.
He gets the win shares for that, yeah.
And then he just bounced around. I don't know. I think once he got to Atlanta, he's like, I'm working on my post game. That's when I knew that's where I knew he was really messing up. I mean, I know he said he was working on it in Houston too, but like, damn, when he was like, oh, I'm going to take over, it's like,
no, you're not, bro.
You're 32 and you're working on your post game.
I think the one thing with Dwight too that we're somewhat overlooking is he is probably only as good as he is because he has like the best player in NBA history on his team to make him better. Like if he's not on LeBron's team, I don't know how much Dwight's doing, to be honest.
I think right now he's finally embraced his role of what he's good at. I think that's the problem with when he left Orlando is he started wanting to do more outside of what he should be doing. His post-up game is awful. There's no reason he should have ever been posting up anybody unless you got a guy that's smaller or you can easily drop step on him. Like his running hooks, his fading shots. I mean, anybody who's ever watched him shoot, it's just an ugly looking shot. And it looks all very robotic. Like it's just not his game. I think now he's in Los Angeles. He realized it was like his last opportunity. He's just going to get back to what he's doing, which is set hard screens, roll the rim, get rebounds, block shots. Which is what made him a Hall of Famer in the first place, was his ability to do that at such a high level because he was so freakishly athletic.
Yeah, I think he's just in a role that he just feels comfortable and he's just doing what he needs to do, just the essentials, and he's not overstepping his boundaries. And it, like you said, it helps that you have LeBron on your team and just a good environment. I don't think anyone should have expected him to be Orlando Dwight or anything like he was going to be used to. So
no,
but for what he's doing, I mean, he's doing it really well. Besides free throws, but that's always been an issue.
Yeah, that's Dwight.
I mean, I'm happy for him. I'm glad he's fine. Like again, team environment has been really good to him too, because all the places he's been to before that he went to Atlanta, which they were in rebuild mode really. Then he went to
and the Hornets,
Charlotte. He was on the Hornets, yeah. He had an okay season, but he wasn't. Again, I don't know what the Hornets are doing. And then gets traded to the Nets, doesn't play any games, gets cut, and then lands on the Wizards, who again just an awful team, no real identity of what they're doing. So I think again he just found this like spot of where he can contribute and he kind of knows what's going on there. Like the goal is to compete for a championship, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so we're coming up on an hour. I think we're gonna wrap this up. So, I'll say this, Brandon. Where can they find you?
Zar Depomafar on pretty much everything. CZAR. Just search CZAR. I'll be there.
Sway Natra.
And Frank?
SWAE Natra. Pretty much everywhere. Twitter, Instagram. Same deal.
And you and you can find me again pretty much anything at Mackie Ireland, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, wherever you follow us, we will probably be on there with that name. So,
and if you can't find me and Frank because our names are weird, Mackie follows us. Easy peasy.
All right, thanks everybody for joining us, and we're gonna end this here. Bye.
Make sure to follow us on Spotify.